Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another this and that video, and if you're new to what these are, it's basically a weekly, sometimes semi-weekly vlog that I do on various different topics based on what's going on around here at the time. So we're into spring and starting to collect and dehydrate those dandelion flowers. So I want to talk about this one first. Now I have a lot of dehydrating videos from previous years, and I'll be doing more specifically just on dehydrating as the season progresses, and I got a lot more going. But right now at this time of the year, I'm not actually running the electric dehydrators, even though we're getting plenty of solar power right now that I could do that. It's been cool enough that we still have a perpetual fire going in the wood stove. So in order to conserve the wear and tear on my electric dehydrators, I'm doing all my dehydrating right now next to the wood stove on the rack that Patrick built for me. Now I have a video that I recently shot but will be publishing in about 3 to 4 weeks on different methods of dehydrating, where I cover electric dehydrators and off-grid dehydrators of all various types, and talk about some different ways that you can construct your own, and it's a matter of being creative as well, ways that can save you money, and so on and so forth. So be watching for that to come out. I want to talk about the dandelions because I have a lot of people that will see the pictures of my dandelion flowers and say, what did you do to have them turn out so nice and not turn into puffballs? Well, I've done various different things. A lot of times I'll spray them down with vinegar, especially if they're ones I'm collecting from the yard area rather than the garden. They're all organic. It's just if they're out in the yard, dogs have more access to that than certain other specific garden areas where I collect them. So sometimes I'll spray them down with the homemade vinegar, and I think that does help to preserve the color and all that. But what it really boils down to is temperature. And I've had various ideas of what can cause some to puff out and some not. And one of those, I think, is dependent on when you pick them. I think if you can pick them as soon as they bloom, the first bloom, because they'll bloom for a few days. They'll open up in the morning as soon as the sun hits them and then close up again in the evening. I think the younger you can pick them after they've been fully opened, that's one of the things. If you wait too late and they're already getting to that point where they're going to close up for the last time and then make seed, I think that's one of the things that causes that to happen. And then the other is your temperature setting. Initially I thought drying it at a little bit higher heat so they dry faster would prevent that, but what I've noticed is all these ones here are ones I've dried next to the wood stove, and it takes longer to do that than using my electric dehydrator. And you can see these turned out really nice, just like any of my other ones I've done on the electric dehydrator. So I'm thinking actually the lower heat or taking its time to dehydrate is probably going to be your better option. Too much heat and too quickly can cause it then to immediately want to go to seed. So that's what you're trying to prevent. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. If you're interested in more information on dandelions, and I dehydrate mostly the flowers and the leaves. I sometimes will harvest roots and dry them too. And then the stems I just like to eat fresh off the plant. That's my favorite part, to eat fresh. But the whole plant is edible and medicinal and has so many great properties. I will link to the video I did a couple years ago down below in the description box so you can check that out and learn more about dandelions and some of the different ways that I like to use them. Now, speaking of dandelions, it doesn't look very pretty anymore. And here's a picture of what it once looked like when I started it a year ago. This is one of my fermentation starters, and this is the one I did with red clover and dandelion flowers. And so these are almost a year old. Even though I've got dandelion flowers coming in, it's going to be a little bit before my red clover comes in. And I'm going to refresh this once I have some red clover blooming, and do this again with the red clover and the dandelion flowers. And so I'll be straining these old ones out and adding some fresh flowers, but keeping this particular starter going. So you can keep a fermentation starter going for years if you want to, and just periodically change out the fruit or herbs or whatever it is you're using. You can even put in totally different things. Like if I strain these out, if I wanted to, I can add some dried goji berries, raisins, strawberries, fresh or dried, it doesn't matter. And then this is the one I have going with the orange peels, and this has been a pretty good one as well. I have these out because I'm trying to get them up to room temperature right now, and I'm only going to use one of them, but usually when I pull one out, I try to pull out the second one too, so that I can feed it, let it dissolve, and then get good and active before I stick it back in the refrigerator. So I have this half-gallon jar out because I have a lot of eggs right now. I did just sell 4 dozen today, so that's wonderful, but still have a lot to work through. I love fermented eggs, so I'm going to be doing that. I get a lot of questions on that. I have a couple of different videos on fermenting eggs. One's pretty old, but it's just a basic, just salt, fermentation starter, and water. And I'll put the link to that down below, and I'll also put the link to the short that I did that's only 60 seconds long. And that one I did, I think, rosemary, garlic, and red pepper, but it's just an example of some of the different flavors you can add to your fermented eggs. I have the eggs all boiled up, and all I got to do is peel them. They're just soaking in some cold water right now. Now, I know people are going to ask me, what's the best way to peel hard-boiled eggs? Well, sometimes it's not about the method of peeling the eggs. It's about the eggs themselves and how fresh they are. The fresher the eggs are, the harder they're going to be to peel once you boil them. So one method I've done is taken older eggs that I've allowed to sit unwashed in cartons for about 2 weeks, and found those, once I boiled them up, those were far easier to peel. And then the other method that I found that personally works good for me, amongst all the many others I've tried, is to, after I boil them, put them immediately into ice cold water, as cold as you can get it. Usually I'll dump out the hot water, run some cold water in there, dump that out, and do that a few times, and then put in the ice and some more cold water, because you want to cool down the temperature, and that usually helps. It's still not perfect. You're still going to have some eggs that are, if they're fresh eggs, that are harder to peel than others. All right, now moving on, you can see I have some dried orange peel. That's the other thing that's been going on a lot right now on our, next to our wood stove on the rack. So these ones are dried. I'm going to be jarring them up, and you can see I have the little fabric over the stainless steel. This just prevents pieces from falling through. If you're curious of what I do with my orange peels, which, by the way, I don't remove the pith. I don't go through all that trouble. If you use them the right way and don't go overboard with them, you can leave that pith on without having to worry about it being an issue with bitterness. You just don't want to get carried away and use too much. But anyway, I have a video I did somewhat recently on the many uses for orange peels that I will put in the description box down below if you would like to learn some of the many ways that I personally like to use them, and I'm sure you can come up with many of your own ways as well. My son, whenever my oldest son, whenever he has jeans that get too tattered, or even flannel shirts or t-shirts that he doesn't wear anymore, and he's just done with them, or he's just trying to clean out his closet and get rid of the stuff he doesn't wear as much, he donates them to me, because I either can wear them myself and use them, or I can cut up the fabrics and use them in different things, such as the denim. And I have a couple of videos coming out about recycling denim. One's just about recycling denim, one's about just recycling t-shirts, and 2 different videos on that. And I might do another one just on flannels and how the many ways that I recycle flannel fabric. But anyway, this particular one here, even though the flannel, this is definitely was a good shirt. It's I don't see any worn spots on it or holes. So I guess there's a little bit of worn spots, but I know that he's worn this many times, and it's pretty old. But it still feels very heavy. So the fabric in this, I don't really like the color and how faded it is. So I'm going to recycle the fabric in this for other things. But this shirt I love. It's one of the most comfortable. This was his. I've seen him wear it before, and I've always liked it. And now that he doesn't wear it anymore, it's one of my very favorite flannel shirts that I like to wear. It's too small for his dad, but I can wear them. And so what I recently did, and I did a separate video just on this, but it's one of those things I like to remind people of, because they might not think about it, or they might not see that video amongst my other, well over 1,300 videos I have out there. But when it comes to long sleeves, I like having long sleeves on my flannels, but most of the shirts I wear, the sleeves are way too long for me anyway, so I have to roll them up. So instead of cutting them off and hemming them, I like having the option of being able to roll the sleeve back down if I'm cold. so I don't like to cut them and hem them. So what I do is I make them, because we know that a lot of times when you button that, you can't roll it up. It's too tight on the forearm if you do that. But if you leave it unbuttoned, you roll it up, it never stays rolled up and it flops around. So just like the shirt that I'm wearing now, and what I did here, I bought a big roll of buttonhole elastic because it has a lot of uses. And what I do is I cut off a chunk and sew it to one end to the side where the buttonhole is, and then take the other end and button it to that button there. And you can also undo it and then just button it this way if you want. You just have to tuck that elastic in, but I never need to do that. I never worry about it. But if you don't sew, you can go watch that video, but if you want, but I do do some zigzag stitch across this edge, and then zigzag it, stitch basically a satin stitch here. So not only does it put a finish on the edge of the elastic so it doesn't fray, but it's on there nice and tight and it's not going anywhere. So let's say you have a shirt and you don't sew, or you don't have a sewing machine. Another option you can do is take any kind of rubber band or elastic hairband like this and loop it through the buttonhole this way, if you can see what I'm doing here, and just pull it like that, and then you've got the same method and you can use that. Now I would think that once you're wearing it, you might even need to stick it on the farther button, that it might stay, or you can wrap it around your button a couple of times like that, or you can try to see if you can tie a knot in the middle of this to make the hole smaller. So that would just be one option. Again, if you want a quick fix like that for your shirts, to make them roll up and stay that way. And having that elastic also gives that little bit of stretch that you might need. So you can just play with it and see if that works. And I'll go ahead and link to that video down below on where it shows me sewing the elastic on there and how I do that. Now the next thing I wanted to talk about is the other day I roasted up a chicken and made a couple of different dishes out of it. I still have some leftover chicken, so I decided tonight it's going to be almond fried chicken. So I do have a recipe on that. It's kind of an oldish video, but I'll go ahead and link to that down below if you're curious. And I do also have a whole playlist, a whole series on making the most of leftovers. So when I'm doing stuff like almond fried chicken, instead of using raw chicken, which would be the traditional way to do it, I use chicken that's already cooked, and it's just the way that I stretch out the meal, and I actually prefer it better that way. And so that's just one of the many things. So if you're interested in some of the ways that you can use up leftover meats, check out that video playlist I'll put down below. I'll usually cook up something big like a whole chicken or a whole roast, even though it's just the two of us, a big fillet of salmon or steelhead, and have a ton left over, and so then use the rest of that meat to put into various other dishes to really stretch it out. For those of us who are not vegetarians or vegans, now is the time more than ever we really need to learn how to stretch that meat and make the most of it. We don't want to see any of that going to waste. My daughter-in-law was bringing over these little spoons with Jackson when she'd bring them over, because now he's starting to eat solid foods, and I had some baby spoons that I had found at a garage sale, and I was like, oh, you don't have to bring those. I used them a couple times. I'm like, well, you don't have to keep bringing those, because I actually have some. Well, once I started using them, I realized I hated them. They were too scooped and he couldn't get all the food out of them. And after using these little silicone ones, I realized how perfect these were for the baby, and so I decided to buy a set. And I love the fact that it has all the colors, sans pink, which is great. I just am really happy with these spoons. So they've been perfect, and they're just the right size for him to hang on to. And being that they're silicone on this end and the handle's bamboo, I feel pretty safe about these. And he likes to, when he's getting to the point where he's about done eating, I give him the spoon and then let him kind of work on putting it in his mouth and learning how to feed himself. And I don't have to worry so much about this as the stainless steel spoons, or even those garage sale ones I had that were too scooped. They were also very narrow and too long handled. So these are also perfect for him to use as he grows and gets better at feeding himself. He's really trying. So I recommend these kind of spoons. Now, this is one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, those are the spoons I want, and I purchased them up, and when I got them in, they said designed in the USA, but guess where they were made? Yeah, you probably guessed it. So if I can find a link to some that were made only in the USA, I kind of doubt it, but if I can, I'll go ahead and put that down below. Otherwise, I'll put the link to these if you're interested and you have a baby or grandbaby and you'd like to have some of those spoons on hand, but they're really handy. And then these little quarter pint jars, I use them for a lot of things. I'll be freezing up some more eggs and still I'm freezing up eggs, and I'm loving them for that. Perfect size for 2 eggs. And you can check out that video on how I do that. I'll be linking to down below. But these are also perfect for me to put his baby food in. His mom brings some, but I also have some of my own homemade blackberry applesauce, no sugar added to it, that I might put in there. And it's just the perfect size where if I put some in there and he doesn't eat it all, I can just put a lid on there and stick it in the fridge. Yet it's the perfect size for me to feed him out of. So that works really, really well. And love these little jars. So many uses. We put our tooth powders in these, our deodorant powders, all kinds of stuff. Let me go ahead and move on to these great items back here I want to show you. And I want to thank Jacqueline so much for sending me this. In fact, I'm not sure how long they've been sitting down at the post office because we haven't been down there for a few weeks. So I apologize if it seems like, you know, you're probably wondering whatever happened to that stuff. Well, we just got it yesterday. So she hand makes all kinds of beautiful items, and one of the things she makes is just different types of jewelry and keychains, and that's what she gave me here was this keychain, and I absolutely love it. It has this little purse on here and just beautiful beads, and I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to use it. I don't know that I'll actually use it as a keychain. I might, but I'm afraid of getting it too beat up, but I think I'll at least hook it onto my purse if nothing else, because I hook my keys on my purse anyway on the outside, but if nothing else, it does make a pretty decor to put on the purse, and I just love this. It's beautiful. And then she also makes aprons out of their old jeans that they don't wear anymore, and so she made these two. What I'll do is I'll get some pictures of them so you can see, because I'm not going to be able to show them to you very well here, but adorable apron. So you can see here the jean front where you got the pocket on either side, and then the other one, again, like I said, I'll put some pictures, but just adorable. And she even sent me some of the excess fabric in case I wanted to add a couple patches to it to match. So that was very generous. Love it. Just very cute aprons, and those are going to be durable too. And then this very unique item. You have to see this thing. I haven't tried it yet. I'm getting ready to, but she takes these mustard and ketchup kind of cups and paints them up and decorates them. She uses all recycled materials, and you put your nectar in here. And then she took, these are old cans that she cut and painted to make all these flowers. And these here are made from old tongs. See that? So cool. And then an old aluminum pie pan, and then just some kind of dish. She finds these things secondhand and then paints them up like this. It's just beautiful. And what a unique idea that she designed all her own. So I'm anxious to hang this out there to see what the hummingbirds will think of that. So yeah, she's got the little flowers with the hole in the middle, so they'll just drink right out of these little cups. But anyway, I wanted to show that to you because wow, what a unique idea, and what a great and beautiful way to recycle some various different materials. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, my little this and that. Don't forget to check out the video links I'll be putting down below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.